Well, joining me now in the studio to discuss the visit to Australia by Hillary Clinton is Brendan O'Connor from the University of Sydney's United States Studies Centre. Now, thank you for joining us, Brendan.
Not a problem.
Just how significant are these bilateral talks?
Well, I suppose it's comforting to have the Secretary of State here, to have the sense that we're not forgotten, that we're important. I think she said that Australia is America's best friend. That was the same words that Condoleezza Rice used towards Australia. So I suppose this is a sense of reassuring. I mean, when we've got military commitments, we've had in Afghanistan and previously in Iraq, you don't want to feel taken for granted. So I suppose that is a big part of why the Secretary of State is here. I think many people would hope Obama would come in the near future. Both Hillary Clinton and Obama promised to come over the last year. So it's really making good on that commitment to come to Australia, to show us we're important, to reassure us in some ways about our important alliance with the United States.
And are words like best friend thrown around lightly?
Condoleezza Rice was pulled up, I think, by the New York Times for using this expression regarding about 5 countries. So if you're as powerful as the United States, you can have many best friends. And I suppose it means a lot to the nations that are told that, where if you're the great power, you can throw around your largesse a little more. I think in Australia's case, we really have become a very central ally to the United States. I mean, we got close to the United States in a time when there wasn't as many friends during the Bush period, and I suppose some people would have thought, well, is that just a special relationship that Howard and Bush had, or in that particular moment of time? And I think there's a lot of signs that it goes well beyond that strength of the alliance is actually something that will transition into the future, that it's been the case during the Rudd government, now the Gillard government, and it's actually a sign that both nations are taking the relationship, I think, a lot more seriously than they did, say, in the 70s or 80s.
So this relationship between America and Australia is as rock solid as everyone is making out?
Well, great powers can also be fickle friends. I think you don't want to kid yourself how important you are. Australia is, in an important part of the world, but still relatively isolated. Doesn't play in the same sort of great power league as the United States. De Gaulle once said great powers can be cold monsters. When they need to cut you loose, they will. So I think we need to be really realistic in our relationship with the United States, to believe it's a friendship akin to some kind of dating relationship, which sometimes is the way the media plays it up. I think is mistaken, but there is a warmth there, I think, on both sides, and I think this visit probably shows that warmth in productive ways.
And speaking of great powers, will the rising military might of China also be on the agenda during these discussions?
Yes, indeed. I mean, that's one of the comforting things for Australians. I suppose the sense that in a region where China's power is rising, and I suppose, of course, our economic connections with China have been increasing dramatically, that the United States is still interested in the region. That it's not going to say, well, we have spheres of influence, we have a part of the world which we're dominant in, China has a part of the world which they'll become dominant in. I think the United States would like to see itself as a partner in the Pacific, as a major player, not as a nation on the decline and moving out.
So is there a conflict there between China as a trading partner and then China's military role?
Well, I suppose the key word is transparency. This is what you hear from the politicians. The sense of course, China will develop its military. Any nation with such growing wealth would be expected to. But I think there's this want to have an openness about what China's doing. The Americans have tried hard to get leading Chinese figures to go to the US, to go on US battleships, to provide some sense of at least openness. And I think that's hopeful from China, but it won't always be the case, I don't think.
And what about the debate that we heard in the federal parliament recently on Australia's role in Afghanistan? Just how much of an influence is that likely to play or to have in terms of these bilateral talks?
I think it was a very important debate. I mean, I think it's a policy that's largely not been that well explained about what Australia is doing there. It's a very complicated situation Australia's in, many moving parts to the situation. So I think it was very important that there was a public debate about it. The reasons given by the Prime Minister about why Australia needs to be there related partly to the alliance with the United States, partly, I suppose, to grand ambitions about Afghanistan becoming more stable, maybe more democratic, But I think at least it's opened up a discussion about what are some reasonable goals in Afghanistan, and I think that was missing from a lot of the debate, I think, for a long time. And I think the United States, in the visit of Hillary Clinton, that's the kinds of questions she's been asked, is, you know, what is the timetable, what are the goals, are you making progress? And a little bit of that today, I think, has been on the agenda with these young people that have asked these questions about Afghanistan, and quite rightly so.
And is it just a talk fest? I suppose that's the big question.
The visit, yeah, I suppose the military side of it's the interesting bit. I mean, America has problems in Okinawa, and many Japanese people are very keen to see the American base there shrink or disappear. It has problems in Guam. So if it wants to have a presence in the Asia-Pacific, Australia looks to be maybe a possible, not base, but place, I suppose is the word that people like to use, where American ships could come to, where American troops could be stationed, where a lot of American equipment could be. So that I think gives us a sense that the alliance is actually increasingly important to the Americans if they're thinking about Australia in that way. And I think the way the Australian both parties, both the elites across the board, I think, are thinking is that this is a good thing. This draws America into our realm and gives us something to play off, that we're giving them something for the assurance of some kind of military assurance that they're giving us.
I expect we'll hear plenty more of this in the next few days. Brendan O'Connor from the University of Sydney, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.